I'd gotten Spyro not long before that and was like so bummed out that I had to go to my own birthday rather than continue playing Spyro the Dragon. I was like, man, this sucks. I just want to go fucking play more Spyro. I don't want people to celebrate me. Good evening.
Good?
To you, listener. Good evening. All of them. Good evening. I'm making a lot of assumptions about when you're listening to this.
It's evening for us, so good evening to all of you.
Yeah, especially given that this usually comes out on like Sunday afternoon. Sort of a weird vibe to invoke in the afternoon of the scariest day of the week.
Monday?
Sunday, in fact.
Sunday
Yeah.
is the scariest. That's the night that I always need to take my little melatonin gummy.
Absolutely. No.
You
Yeah,
need that
like if there was a
melatonin.
big man who could give me like one painless punch in the head to put me to sleep, that would be pretty nice on Sunday night.
Oh, you don't want that. You don't want a concussion to go to sleep, Chase.
No, painless. I want him to hit me in just the right way that it like cradles my brain and doesn't rocket around in there and everything.
I don't know if that's the way it works, baby.
Yeah. I guess
But I
just
see
take
what you're saying.
Yeah, it's in a fantasy world where punches don't hurt.
Punches don't
If
don't
Goku
hurt.
could just give me a little flick on the head, knock me out, no problem.
Punch me to sleep,
No.
but don't make it hurt.
It's an odd request for violence, if I'm being honest.
So you want me to sing you a lullaby?
No, friend, I want violence done to me, but no hurt. Listen, this is all fun. This has been great. I have 6 games that I need to talk about in the first part here, so we gotta get the
Chase
fucking
is not
genre.
fucking around. All right.
No, again, this is sort of a similar vibe to last week. There's just too many video games, and I need to say things about them.
Sure.
So,
Where are we? What is this?
listen, I got an answer for you. It's video game Podtimism. It's the Optimist video game variety show. Where are we? It's the Optimist video.
back.
Kate, we have to record a podcast, Kate. We're in purgatory or something. Sideways in time. Who knows?
It was very provocative.
It's the Optimist video game variety show where 2 best friends talk about the wonderful world of gaming. My name is David. No, it's Chase. Sorry. I always imagine if I'm going to fuck up my name like that, it's going to be somebody's first episode and they're going to be so confused the next time they listen.
Just fuck up your name. Just give them the wrong name.
Yeah. It's got to be something really weird to the point where they don't believe me. My name is Hulk Hogan.
The Hulk? I'm
Yeah,
Joe
the
Rogan,
Hulk.
baby. Welcome to
No.
the podcast.
Hulk Hogan. You're Joe Rogan?
I'm Joe Rogan.
I got to talk to you about some of that content, man.
Welcome, Roganators. Is that what they call themselves?
I bet not. I bet that's not exactly.
Robros?
I don't know. Roganators is pretty fun, but
like Roganators.
there's no world where that's what they're
I'm a
called.
Roganator. Imagine just a shirt, him with like 2 thumbs up, like a cartoon style. I'm a Roganator. That's the fan shirt. That's the fan club shirt right there. I already have it
Sure.
planned out, apparently, in my head. This is it's all snowballing right now. Anyways, you want to say something?
Yeah. If you're Joe, I really gotta ask you some questions about who you're putting on your show. You seem to be pretty rough.
So I'm the Joe Rogan from an alternate timeline who has brought Dr. Fauci on the podcast.
Sure.
I've brought on
No white nationalist or right wing celebrities or anything like that.
no
Like,
Alex
nobody over there, yeah.
Jones, no Elon Musk laughing at a dead deer.
Yeah.
More like
Just like I think just like normal people would be
that'd
cool.
be good too. Instead of not even
I mean just like
celebs.
not insane unhinged people.
Rational folks.
I love the idea of multiverse Joe being a good dude.
It's Loki style, baby.
Wow, he's the variant of Joe. I'll definitely trade that Joe in.
Good Joe Rogan. Lawful good Joe Rogan.
Wow, yeah.
Actually, no, maybe neutral good Joe Rogan.
I mean, yeah, I'll take anything at this point. Any upgrade is more helpful than this.
I agree. Agreed.
Hey, what's up? Video games? Have you been playing those?
I haven't played a lot of things.
Yeah,
I've been doing some wild stuff lately.
Talk to me.
So first one I want to talk about, I got Transistor.
Oh, wow. Okay. The Supergiant game.
Yes, Supergiant, because I was
Of
like,
Hades and Bastion fame.
this one was on sale recently on PlayStation. I was like, why not? I think it was like $5 or $10. It was real cheap.
Oh, wow. That's a steal.
So I was like, yeah, Hades was so good. I'm going to look at your other backlog whenever it's on sale now. So
yeah,
let's give it a go. Good so far. Definitely their style of game still bleeds through kind of like that top-down isometric combat.
Yeah.
But I haven't gotten too far into it, but it's definitely intriguing so far. The combat is taking a little bit longer to get used to than Hades.
For sure.
It's a little bit more, a tiny bit more cerebral, whereas Hades is just kind of just go and smack them and don't get smacked. And that's about it. You're a lot slower than in Hades, so you can definitely get tagged pretty easy. So just kind of getting used to the different play style. But, it is cool, the mechanic of being able to kind of stop time playing your attacks and then let it play out in some beautiful, beautiful glory as you just mess up some weird like robot polyhedron things.
Yeah, I think that's about right, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
it's been I played Transistor back in the day. I'm trying to like remember what it was like.
So I'm a red-haired woman who apparently was like a singer or a political figure or something.
They're a little vague with it in the
stolen
beginning
or something like that. Yeah. So, and my sword talks to me. So we're gonna find out what's going on with that.
Yeah.
But no, I'm definitely intrigued to play it some more. It didn't grip me quite as hard as Hades did in the beginning, where I was just like, all right, I'm all in, pretty much like after the first run. But I'm definitely gonna go back and play through it.
Hey, did you ever play Bastion? I feel like I ask you this every time we talk about Supergiant.
I don't think I haven't played Bastion.
It's worth it. I think like Bastion to me felt very Hades-like in just the combat-y way, but I don't think it was a roguelike in the same capacity. I think it was fairly linear.
Yeah.
So be interested to see what you think about that one. I also like enjoyed Transistor for what it was. I know like when that came out, that was a lot of people's like one of the best games of that year. And so I think it is good, but as I will also agree with in a later game, it is incredibly difficult to not compare a lot of games to Hades after just like how high that game like reached both narratively and mechanically. Like it's and so like it's very hard not to, especially because it's like a Supergiant game. Like they would go on to do, I think it was Pyre after Transistor and then Hades, and so like I don't know, it's very hard not to look at them and say like this is pretty good, but it's no Hades. It's so hard not to do that. I'm trying hard not to, but I'm like, this is different. This is its own thing. Let's just enjoy it for what it is. But yeah, I definitely anticipate that that's going to be somewhat of an issue for myself as well. Yeah. I mean, like, which is a good thing, right? Like a similar sort of experience happened after Breath of the Wild when I was like, I don't think a lot of these open world action games are actually as good as I thought they were now.
Yeah.
Like they all sort of pale in comparison.
Yeah, I think that honestly might be the reason why I'm personally been having a hard time getting into any open world game since Breath of the Wild, because they just all feel so too much. There's just like too much. There's
a lot of video game in that video game. Whereas like the Breath of the Wild is,
and the breathability of Breath of the Wild was so nice.
Yeah. No, it felt like some other experience. Despite the fact it's like, obviously, yes, absolutely a video game. But like, when I was playing through Watch Dogs, it was like, holy shit, man. Like there's just so much video game here.
Yeah, there's just so
I really
much.
would like to enjoy something, I don't know, just like naturally. Like it felt like in Breath of the Wild happened, which is like, it's a magic trick, right? Like they're pulling off magic in there. But Jesus, like it really does pale in comparison. So yeah, I suspect the same thing with Hades is going to start happening with this sort of stuff.
Yeah. Like when I open up a world map and there's just like icons everywhere,
many icons.
I just get anxiety. It just makes me anxious. I know for a lot of people out there, it's like, wow, there's so much to do. I need to go explore everything. But for me, it's like, that's too much. It's like sensory overload. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Breath of the Wild too. Anyways.
Yeah.
On to my next game.
Next game is Blasphemous. Oh my God, you do have a lot of games, because I saw 2 games you've been playing on Switch and neither of them are this. Blasphemous is the like kind of Dark Souls-y style 2D
Metroidvania.
Metroidvania, I think is better. Yeah,
it's a Metroidvania. So it's Dark Souls and Metroidvania hybrid,
yes,
which I'm quite enjoying so far.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about it last week that I'd been wanting to find a good Metroidvania.
Yeah.
I just had been getting that itch that only a Metroidvania can scratch.
Yeah.
and I saw this. I'm like, oh, well, now I'm into like FromSoft games and Dark Souls type games. So let's give this a shot. And I'm really enjoying it so far.
Yeah.
I really enjoy the lore. There's a lot of lore in this one.
For sure.
You know me, when I can just sink my teeth into some dark lore, it really gets me going. Just makes the world seem so much more interesting to me. And just makes me have a lot more drive to continue going even when things are hard, because I'm like, maybe there's a tasty little bit of knowledge at the end of this. God, I'm such a dirty knowledge seeker. What's wrong with me?
I guess so.
If you're a ding boy, I'm a knowledge seeker. I'm a lore child.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, I feel like that's such a more evolved thing to be your guilty pleasure.
The ding boy.
I love the intelligent sort of tickle I get when I read more things about this world. I just love it. Versus me just literally seeing a number grow up and saying, oh yeah, that's nice. I love when 1 goes to 2. Even better than when 2 goes to 3.
Hey, you're a cheap date, baby, and ain't nothing wrong with that.
I guess that's true. But yeah, no, Blasphemous has a bunch of shit in there. It's like, it's got a little bit more like lore and just like interesting shit, not interesting, but explainy stuff happening than in Dark Souls.
It's got some explainy stuff going on.
Dude, what is the word I'm thinking of? Exposition. Like things are happening versus like in Dark Souls.
Some,
explaining shit.
Explainy stuff. I love it.
Good God. I swear I went to school once. Yeah, like they I feel like they explain a little bit of what's happening in the world, and it's very cool. I feel like the setup in Blasphemous is very fun. Just like if you can get over sort of the like kind of grim dark stuff that's going on in there, like it's very like there are gory-ish parts, but I feel like more often than not it's just like the tone and the vibe of it is so scary and dark.
I'm into it. It reminds me kind of like very much like a Bloodborne type of situation more than a Demon Souls or Dark Souls, but I'm interested. I'm in on that one.
Have you played any other like kind of FromSofty inspired games? I feel like I haven't heard a lot.
FromSofty inspired games. That's a good question. I don't think I've played like a Dark Souls type game that's not from Software. I guess maybe God of War 2018 definitely had Dark Souls DNA in it.
Yeah, it's got some combat in there that's pretty Dark Soulsy. Like you haven't played Neo. I don't think I
played Neo a little bit. I couldn't.
Oh yeah, you did. I think we talked about it on the show.
I jumped into it for a hot second after I finished Bloodborne.
Yeah,
I couldn't get into it the same way.
It's not quite as good as Bloodborne. Like Podtimists inclusion here. Like it's still just not quite as good as Bloodborne. Bloodborne's like unbelievably good.
Yeah, Bloodborne.
You played Hollow Knight though.
I played Hollow Knight. I think that was kind of the gateway drug for me. They had to encloak that Dark Souls type of gameplay in a Metroidvania for me to...
You had some familiar surface to walk on there. So Blasphemous Good is the name of...
Blasphemous Good? Okay, I also have been playing mini golf.
Mini golf?
I don't remember the full name of it, but it's a mini golf. It's a mini golf game. Okay, it was like $2. It was like $2
on Switch or something?
Switch, and I was like, why not? I was on the Switch store with Mallory, and she's like, we were playing the golf component of that 51
worldwide classics clubhouse games.
You know the one I'm talking about. 51 games.
Yep. You were playing pocket mini golf is what you're describing.
We were playing pocket mini golf.
Nice. It is currently $2.
It was $2, and I got the DLC for a cheapo $1.99 as well.
More
so
pocket
why
golf.
Not?
Yeah.
It's fine. It's definitely a pocket golf. It's interesting how they set it up. So there's just like a 3-dimensional space you're in, and then the course comes dropping down, and then you play it, and then you beat it, and the next one just comes dropping down. So it's not like you're going around a world. It's just like 3-dimensional video game space, and then all of a sudden there's a course.
Yeah, it looks very stripped down. Not in a bad way, but just like there's like a color in the background, and then a tiny little golf course.
Yeah. So unfortunately, the only way to play multiplayer is to like you don't play on the same hole. You were both simultaneously going through like a set of like predetermined holes, like and then you kind of race each other, which I'm not thrilled by that type of multiplayer. I want to play with Mallory, not like against her if that makes sense. Like we're racing against her.
Yeah, you want to play by strokes, not speed.
Exactly.
This game accidentally invented speed golf before Mario
made
Golf.
speed mini golf. It made speed mini golf. It definitely did.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, this is kind of interesting, but I don't know if this is gonna keep me coming back personally. But hey, it was $2, so no love lost on mini golf, pocket mini
Shuts
golf.
out pocket mini golf.
Yeah, we'll see if we can change things around a little bit, but yeah, not too much going on there. I got nothing else to say on that one unless you have anything to add, but
I mean, it looks like mini golf.
You're not wrong. So bringing me to my next game.
Talk to me.
Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 Definitive Edition.
I saw you playing this on Switch. This was like, I saw this happening. I'm like, what in the world is going on with David over there? He's got such an odd grouping of games.
Definitely another game where I was on the Switch store with Mallory and she's like, Roller Coaster Tycoon, get it. I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
And then also another situation where we started playing it together and then Mallory fell asleep and I stayed up until 2:30 in the morning playing it on
I
a
suspected,
Saturday.
given your history with City Skylines, that this may be another situation.
God, dude. It's almost kind of worse than City Skyline because I get less done because the controls are not
Pretty rough.
not ideal on the Switch, to say the least.
Yeah, sure.
You can get it after a while, but it took like a good hour or so to like get used to them and get humming in it.
There's so many menus in those games that it's just got to be so hard
So many menus
to get into those.
I have two radial menus, left bumper, right bumper, and then you have to access each different menu even deeper inside by picking like different rides you want, what type of ride you want a air powered roller coaster, or do you want like a regular like wooden roller coaster, and then you go in there and you can choose from all the different pieces, and then it doesn't really tell you how to like change the height of the pieces. It just kind of lets you go for it and figure it out. You have to hold down Y to do it, and then move it up and down, and
easy. Yeah.
And then we decided we were going to do like a dinosaur park essentially.
Yeah.
And we're like, let's make a giant mountain with a waterfall coming out of it. It's like the central feature of the park.
Sure.
Oh, that was so hard to do. And it gave me like no explanation about what I was doing and how I was doing it was wrong.
How to manipulate the terrain in the way that they wanted.
How to get the waterfall to work. It kept telling me that my ledge was too narrow.
Oh God!
From the upper body of water to the lower body of water. I'm like, okay, let's terraform this thing, which is a risky proposition unless you like really know what you're doing. You could just totally fuck things up. So I made it more wide, and it's like the two bodies of water are too far apart now, bro. So I just missed it. I missed it by a little bit, so I had to go back and just like individually like take down like half of a square on the grid on each part, and then that worked. But I got a sweet waterfall right behind the dolphin show.
That's nice.
Feels good. But
it seems like such a hard job making a game that is intended to be played with a mouse playable on a controller.
Yeah, honestly, whoever made this, hats off to you, honestly, because it takes a long time to learn, but once you get it, it makes sense. It does.
Like a professional roller coaster tycooner.
It just takes a lot of patience and hard work.
It's like one of those like stenographers keyboards that they use where they can type like an obscene amount of words a minute. You just have to get used to the tool.
Exactly. You got to get used to the tool. It's not the tool's fault. It's your fault because you don't know how to use it.
I'm doing 5 coasters a minute, baby. I'm flying.
Oh my God. I haven't even attempted to make my own coaster. I've just been doing preset ones so far.
Oh yeah, no.
I'm too scared. That's a whole nother can of worms. But I did make a whole entire canoe ride with different ride events that would trigger when they got to certain points. So there's like an avalanche, there's a shark attack, there's a volcano.
There's a kiss.
There's a kiss.
There's a hug.
Yeah. I made a series of like little islands with water going through them. And then I put animals on all the different islands and like wooden bridges for the people to get there. Felt good, baby. Looks good.
You're an auteur, David.
I'm an auteur. This is a very interesting park. It's pretty much Six Flags Discovery Kingdom in the Bay Area because it's got animals, it's got water rides, it's got thrill rides, it's got coasters, baby. It's got it all.
Listen to me, sweetheart. I am an artist, and the roller coasters are my canvas. Let me paint.
Let me paint, baby. Except I only want to buy already painted pictures because I'm too scared to open up that can of worms, but I'll get there.
I've never had a huge interest in any of the roller coaster tycoons of making a coaster. I feel like they're so expensive usually.
They're so
like just
expensive,
to buy like a little bit of track is so much more money than me just like, how about I save a lot of time and effort and just like plop down one of their pre-mades? It's totally fine. The people will love it.
Yeah, I'm just doing sandbox mode right now as I get used to the controls. Yeah, because like the one ride I did make at first, the canoe ride, it's like telling me it's losing like $24 like a minute. Like it is not a moneymaker whatsoever.
Canoes here.
Apparently I can only have like one canoe out at a time, and the course is really long. Like it's not a big course.
Oh, so it takes fucking forever. Yeah,
it takes a long time for people to go through. They're like gunning it down this fucking course. They're like Olympians in the canoe, like hauling ass, and then I point on like the guests are like, "God, this is taking so long in line. I can't do it anymore." I'm like, well, damn.
Got to get some more news.
Got to get some more what?
News. Canoes. News.
More news. I need a bigger station. That's apparently how many. That determines how many canoes you can put out. There's also pools. I had no idea what I was doing with the pools. I was so confused. Oh, yeah, sure. Because also the issue is that with a lot of these menus that pop up, I'm just like, I don't have time of day to read this instruction. So I just like blast through it. I'm just like, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure it out. It's fine. And then for sometimes I can't figure it out.
I have such a similar problem every time I play a game that has complex UI. And they're like, listen, we've got a really nice text box to help you. And I'm like, no, thank you. I'm going to press buttons until I either make this roller coaster explode or I figure it out.
And also, it doesn't help that there's the same issue that so many games suffer from, which is, why don't you just, if you're trying to get me to read something, just blur everything else out and make it the whole screen. Because I cannot read that from so far away. It hurts my eyes. I'm 30 now, okay? You got
30, baby.
That. They really didn't try too hard to make this console friendly.
Yeah.
They tried hard enough to make it work.
They spent their whole budget on just the control scheme and then just slapped the UI red on there.
They probably just had like 2 or 3 interns with like one employee overseeing them do this whole thing, most likely.
Poor people. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. That's mean to the people who actually did develop it. They did a good job. Thank you, everybody.
Just please some bigger text.
Just please some bigger text.
That's like an industry-wide thing, I feel like. Everybody... in the Ascent, I was like, I tried to put their, they offered like text sizing, and you can boot it up to like their biggest one. It's still so small.
Yeah.
Like, let me put it on grandpa mode, please, where like there is one word on the screen at a time.
Like even for console only games, it's still so small. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
What's the point? How is this helpful? But sorry, we're getting a little nasty with this. It's just we're old and our eyes hurt, so please make it easy for us.
I was gonna say, defending accessibility, I feel like is not a nasty boy thing.
Yeah, honestly, it is. It does seem pretty inaccessible to people with poor eyesight as well.
Yeah, like both of us have pretty normal, like average eyesight.
Yeah.
I can only imagine if you have like really rough eyesight that this is probably not super usable. Like a lot of games are not easy to read.
Yeah, you'd have to play on the computer. That's it. Otherwise,
don't need to dunk on the devs or anything, but yeah, please, bigger text for God's sake.
Bigger text, please. But yeah, other than that, I'm enjoying Roller Coaster Tycoon. It's just a nice thing. Now that I have my park kind of going, it's a good one to just kind of put on for like 15, 30 minutes and just kind of like add a couple things before I go to bed. So it's good.
Parkitect is the game that I see thrown around a fair bit that I've been wanting to try. Because I've tried Planet Coaster and it was like pretty challenging. It like felt like I was learning a new tool at work. Like there's just so much UI. Sure. There's so like it. I bet for somebody who lives and breathes that shit, it's like, oh yeah, love this. Like, let me get my spreadsheets open and feel good. But like, it was so overwhelming to me. I'm sure if I spent some time and like really was into it, then I could probably get through it. But like, I think my desire to play those games was just not quite high enough to push me through. But I've seen that Parkitect is like pretty good. I've seen people say good things about it. So like maybe that one for me.
Parkitect.
It looks like Sim Theme Park, which I was really, really into.
Okay. And then I have one last game.
Yes.
That I've been playing.
I know.
Do you?
Yeah.
It's The Messenger.
It is The Messenger. I saw that. I was very excited that you were playing this.
I was back in it.
What's The Messenger for people who haven't played it?
The Messenger is a side-scrolling, starts off as 8-bit, then goes to 16-bit.
I think 8-bit, yeah.
And then goes to 16-bit.
I think so.
Yeah, it starts off as an 8-bit side-scrolling platformer. And then once you kind of get through all the levels, it decides, hey, we're gonna push you into the future, like narratively. Like you're now traveling to the future, and now it's all 16-bit.
Yep.
So graphical boost, sound card boost, it's a pretty neat change that you get to experience. And then at that point, it also becomes more like a Metroidvania, where you then have to kind of go back and find certain music notes to finally get to the last boss in the game. Yeah. So 8-bit, it's a side scroller, takes you through like a series of like 8-ish levels, I think, and then it kind of plops you back in those and says, go find these things in this world that you've already explored, and you unlock different areas by traveling through time, because walls will erode over time, so you can get through to this new area, or like things will, like different people will be around. You gotta travel back and forth to make it work.
It's such a cool switch that they do. Like when you're able to travel through time, it was so cool that they essentially had like been planning that you would come back through these levels eventually. And God, that's just so neat, especially because like so many games on the like NES, like the 8-bit era, so many of them were literally just running from left to right. Like Ninja Gaiden, I think, is like a similar game to what The Messenger is trying to do as far as like controls go. And so they like emulate that style visually, mechanically, and like just level design layout. And then they switch over to like this 16-bit. And like you said, you can go back and like explore literally like Metroid on fucking Super Nintendo and shit like that. Like it's just so neat how they made that switch in more ways than just the graphics. Like, oh my God, just so cool. Yeah. I loved this game. I thought it was so great.
It was really good. It was the controls are so tight. Yeah. So tight. Great. Immaculate. Like Celeste levels of tight. Yep. Which is saying a lot. Yeah. Yeah. Combat feels good. Platforming is really nicely done, nicely handled. Just enough challenge to keep you going, but not so much you're just not so easy as just a cakewalk, right? Yeah. So definitely providing just that just right challenge, as we call it in the therapy world, where you're able to do it, but it's not easy. Yeah. Yeah. So it was really a really fun game. My one gripe is that when it throws you back into the Metroidvania style, it's just kind of all of a sudden it's kind of jarring. It was very jarring to me, and I didn't quite know what to do, even with like the hints and everything. Yeah, yeah. And I went back and started just exploring, but then I just got lost and confused and frustrated, and I stopped playing it for a long time. Yeah, sure. But then same thing with this Metroidvania craze that I was fiending for recently. I was just like, I'm just going to man up and just look up a walkthrough. Put my pride and my ego aside and access this untapped vein of fun. So I went for it, and it was really great. The last bit of the game was really, really good. I just needed a little help kind of like finding where to go. And then when I got there, I was just like, oh, okay, I can do this. So yeah, it was just with that kind of stuff, like this game, and also, what was it, Wind Waker, where it just feels like it becomes a fetch quest. A little bit, yeah, at a certain point. Yeah, and it's not like a fetch quest where like they tell you where to go. It's just like open-ended fetch quest. Just check everything. Yeah. I'm just like, I don't enjoy that quite as much. It's a little overwhelming at times, yeah. Yeah, I don't enjoy that style of game mechanic personally. But everything else about the game I loved. Like the music was so The music good. Is unbelievable. Music is so good, especially when it switches from the 8-bit to the 16-bit. You can hear the differences. Yeah. Oh, it's so good. All the platforming is great. All the bosses are good. It has great humor. Was not expecting that in the game at all. Always hard to do in a video game. Always hard to be funny. Yeah. I especially love the shopkeeper and all the different conversations you could have with him. Like trying to open the box, and he's just like, I told you, don't open the box. Like, why are you still doing this? Why are you bothering me? Yeah. So good. So yeah, I would definitely at the end of everything, I'd say definitely recommend this game to most folks. But just be ready to potentially use a walkthrough at the end there. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of value in the game, even if this isn't necessarily your jam all the way through, but there's still so much great stuff in there. Yeah. Yeah. I think just conceptually too, it's like just a really, really cool idea. Yeah, so I'm excited to see if they do a second one. Hell yeah, video games. That's it. I had a long list this week. Yeah. Look, I'm so proud. You've gotten through all of them. That was a lot of video games. That's more than you usually bring, and I love that energy. I love it when you have one game that you've played, and I love it when you have 10. It's all very good. Yeah, and I beat the messenger too. I don't know if I said that. I noticed you were using past tense. Yeah. I inferred. You inferred it. Well done. Me and the listener. Good job, listener. Good job, listener. Thank you. I know you noticed too. I too have been playing a lot of video games, David. Can I tell you about this? Please hit me. If we are at all hoping to finish this by literally today,
I think we need we need to start.
Give me somewhat the spark notes.
No, babe, you getting the whole damn novel. You getting the whole thing.
I'm getting the okay. Hit me with the whole fucking War and Peace. Right?
Yeah,
that's big.
I'm gonna hit you with the text, not even the spark notes, none of that shit. So yeah, apologies in advance for whoever doesn't like hearing my voice at this part, but you're in luck, I guess.
You're in the wrong podcast if you don't like that.
That is true. If you don't like one of us, that is sort of an interesting dynamic you've got here. Okay,
just mute one half of the podcast. Oh, David's talking. Fuck this
Sucks.
guy.
Skip. Okay, so the first one that I want to talk about. It's called Wildermyth. This is a game that it's kind of been floating around on Steam recently. And where did I heard about this? A handful of places. Like I saw some people saying like, oh, this game is really good. I saw some buzz about it online about like, this is a very fun game. And it like, I don't know why I haven't picked it up yet. Usually this is something that I would just like jump on whenever it's like indie game and looks kind of roguelike-ish and there's some experimental shit going on. I guess to set the stage of this one a little bit more, the game itself is this kind of emergent gameplay narrative stuff happening. So what that means is like the game drafts you a set of characters at the beginning of it, and you make choices sort of like a choose your own adventure, but like almost closer to D&D is what it feels like. You make these choices throughout. What they split up the game into is called campaigns. You make your choices through these like campaigns, and your characters also continue to exist in those campaigns. And so like over the course of many like literal years in the game, like things will happen that, you know, change the course of your characters, change how they interact with each other, change their relationships with one another. They can die. So like they would just like be gone forever. Mm-hmm. And so it feels a little bit like Fire Emblem in that way, like the way that the characters are so centered around like the game itself. And it also happens to play kind of Fire Emblem-y, like the gameplay loop and the gameplay mechanics are, you're put into like a grid-based fighting arena, and there's some bad guys that you got to go root out and fight. All the character like classes play a little bit differently. There's like some melee people, some sneaky roguey people, and some mages. And so, yeah, the game itself, you like, it has this like overarching map that you sort of like go to different towns and places like that and either use those places to like reclaim it from these monsters that are in it. You can build shit there using the resources that they have. But this is all done with your party. So like on the map, you'll like choose some little like part of the world, go there with your party. It just moves these like tiles on the world map. And you can do something there. And so usually you have like an overarching goal of like get to this part of the map and explore it or something. And that's like the story beat that's going to happen. But all along the way, there are a bunch of these like miniature, tinier stories that will play out. And it is very wild how very much it feels written, like it feels authored, despite the fact like it's mostly not. Like it's kind of just responding to whatever you're doing, which feels like a magic trick a lot of the times. There are many points where, like in a D&D thing, in the beginning it's like, okay, here are your three characters, and then a couple of times it'll say, what's the relationship between these two people? And like that will have like long lasting effects in this game, right? Like I chose to make two of the people in my party be in a relationship with each other kind of on a whim, but just like in the beginning I was like, oh yeah, sure, they're dating. And they've been dating for like 30 years at this point in the game, like a long time. And that's not like, you know, a number ticks up and it is 30 years later. It's like there are narrative things that are happening. Your characters are aging and like, you know, the story of the game is unfolding around these characters. And so it seems like a lot of the beats in the story are predetermined, but almost everything else narratively is not. Well, it's just so cool. Like that mechanic is really, really impressive. And it's odd how it kind of like sneaks in there. It doesn't make itself very known, like that's what's happening. But, you know, you go on and check other people's playthroughs and they're very, very different. Sure. And I think like, you know, core to part of the story of the game is like, you know, writing your story is like a powerful thing to do. And yeah, there's like, I don't want to ruin too much because it does develop over time. But yeah, I think it like, if that's your jam, I think this game is like right up somebody's alley who would, you know, enjoys the sort of emergent storytelling sort of stuff, enjoys the like definitely interesting combat. I think there is, initially it's very simple, but like it does get more complicated over time, and you can obviously, you know, level up the people in your party to have abilities that play off of each other. And so it like becomes very satisfying very quickly. Yeah. A great random name generator too. My goodness. Just very good, like weird names that they generate.
Like what?
What was, I would have to look up the ones ones in my game, but they're all just like very odd and seem like somehow in universe they're all connected to each other. Like, you know, when you like read a Star Wars character name, you're like, that's definitely a Star Wars character.
Yeah.
Similar sort of thing. Like, what the fuck? Like these very weird naming conventions. Not only that, a lot of the times if you craft a new weapon, you can like name it, which is very, very fun. So half the time I'll just hit like a random name generator, you know, it'll come up with something fucking rad. And other times I'll make a new bow and call it Pointy or something like that. Just so stupid.
Like what are the, like, is it like medieval fantasy type of setting? Yeah.
Yeah. It's I think that's pretty much it. Like a little bit higher fantasy because there are like monsters and magic and shit, but fairly medieval-y. It's good. It's a good video game. It's worth a play.
All right.
I've seen a lot of people who are like, you know, this is one of the best games that has come out this year.
What system is it on?
I'm playing it on PC. I think it's on Mac as well, but I presume it's probably coming to some sort of console, if not Switch. But I could be totally uninformed, and they said, fuck that. I don't know.
Fuck the Switch.
Everybody hates the Switch. I only hate the Switch. So yeah, that's one of the games I'm playing. I'm also playing a game called Dreamscaper. This is Dreamscaper. This is the new section called Rufus Recommends. I got this recommendation from listener Rufus who said, hey, I was looking at this game. Has anybody played it? And I said, I will. I have not yet, but I will. And I'm playing Dreamscaper. So yeah, thanks for the rec. It is a action-y roguelike where you are this person named Cassidy who like is clearly going through some shit. She is initially in the very beginning of the game, you play her at like kind of a young age, and it's unclear exactly what's happening, but like some shit's going on with her family where it doesn't seem very fun. And then it like jumps forward a handful of years when she's like an adult and she's living in some city. I think it's sort of vague about exactly which one it is. And the way the game loop works is that she will like essentially fall asleep on her bed, which then transports her to this other world. Presumably it's either like her dream world, and it's certainly tied to like her subconscious. So I guess presumably as Cassidy, you are fighting your sort of inner demons, I think is what it is. Like a lot of the bosses are called like fear or loss or isolation or something like that. So the way the game plays out is that you will be on essentially like you could, you know, think about any world in any of these roguelikes. You will go through, it is sort of like top-down fightery. Again, this is what I was talking about when I'm saying it's very hard not to compare it to Hades.
Yeah.
It's kind of top-down. It looks, the art style is really great. I will say that like that it's very different than a lot of other roguelikes I've played. All the characters almost look like they're like woven like dolls, essentially. Not in a creepy way. It's just like they kind of look like little stuffed animals. And not in like a cutesy way. I don't know. They look like tangible little interesting like pieces essentially that you would find. None of them have like faces or anything like that. It sounds terrifying in the way that I'm describing it, but
that
like
sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, but it's kind of normal. Like it's not that bad in the actual game. I think because a lot of the time the implication is that they're talking to one another, so it seems like a stand-in and an artistic decision rather than like a realistic depiction of what is happening in the world. And so like I don't know, that for whatever reason it's never felt too scary.
All right.
But yeah, so you're essentially wandering around each of these levels, and I haven't quite worked it out, but presumably these are different parts of Cassidy's life. Like the very first place you spawn, I think, is like her home when she was younger. She refers to like people that she's seen around town in the first level, or like her car when she was younger. And as you'll beat a boss, you'll go into some other area. Like the second area is like kind of like a city area that she's going to. And the boss there is like isolation. And so it's interesting that you can kind of pull out like what she might have been going through, where she was in this place. Because fear was the first one, right? And so like you can kind of extract what might have been happening in the story. And there's little beats that happen at the end of every one of these worlds that I think presumably are in the real world. Her taking a picture with her family, or her going somewhere with her family, or something like that.
Sure.
What happens when you die is that in the real world, Cassidy wakes up and you can go and go to any number of like these places in the real city. And those act as sort of the places where you can go like get permanent upgrades and your little meta progression stuff.
Sure.
And they're all tied to like something she's doing, right? So, in the park, she goes and meditates and feels better.
All right.
At the coffee shop, she goes and like sketches. I can't remember what she does at the bar. It might just be reflection or something like that, but
sure.
She'll go there, and then eventually after a little bit more of the game you can like interact with the people who are there. They're all like named characters, which give you sort of like passive boosts after you start to like get better friends with them, you can give them gifts that you can craft. You sort of have to make a little bit of guesswork about like, well, I wonder what this person likes. Maybe they like this kind of gift that I can craft or whatever. And so there's kind of this interesting overworld that it creates, where you can go and explore and sort of like hang out with these other people, and oftentimes feels like fairly well written. A lot of the interaction that you have with people are like, yeah, that feels pretty normal. Not every one of them, but like a couple of times I'm like, oh, she like clearly knows this person from work or something like that. Mm-hmm. And they like don't really know how to interact with each other yet. And it's like kind of awkward at first.
Gotcha.
But that sort of stuff. And so like, I think like, I'll talk about Garden Story in a second because I did beat that game. But like Garden Story, I really love the idea that the like connections that you get with people in the real world is what passively boosts your power. In this game. Like the closer you become to these people, the stronger you get, which I'm like, that's a pretty good and that's a pretty optimistic way to upgrade your character. Yeah. So I like that. The gameplay itself feels very good. Like the fighting all feels really great. The dodge roll, per usual, always need a good dodge roll, feels right. Like the amount of time it takes to get hit when you're in a dodge roll is like, yeah, that felt good. I think the like meta progression stuff is really fun. There's like a ton of depth to a lot of it. There's a lot of different weapons. Feels kind of like either Rogue Legacy or I know, what am I thinking of? Dead Cells feels like a lot like Dead Cells in the way that there's just like a ton of weapons that can spawn, which makes the game pretty interesting one run to the next. And like I said, it's really hard not to compare this to Hades. Like they occupy a very similar space of a roguelike that is trying to tell a story. And I think like that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I think that area is kind of underdeveloped. I know that might sound counterintuitive to people who have seen every other game being a roguelike in the last couple of years, but sure. Like the amount of games that have really nailed a narrative in this space is like not as many. I think there's a lot that nail the mechanics and the feel of it, but one that also does narrative I think is a little bit more rare. Yeah, I think, which is why Hades felt so good and why it remains to feel good, because it's like, wow, it's really managing to do something cool here with the story and not just make it feel very good. Yeah. And so I think Dreamscaper is trying to achieve a similar thing. And I think it's like definitely there, right? Like it's doing the thing that it sets out to do. Just again, for me personally, it's very hard not to compare this to Hades and say like, you know, well, this is different or that doesn't feel quite as good or whatever. As much as I can, I'm trying to sort of put that on a shelf and say like, what does this game feel like? And like, what are the merits of it? And I think if you look at it that way, it's a pretty like good game. Yeah. I'm very interested to see like kind of where the story goes and how it, you know, wraps up. I think it does a good job of kind of stringing you along without having to tell a shitload of, as I said, explainy or exposition throughout the game. It's just sort of like, you know, there is something that has happened and you are unraveling that mystery through the game that feels very good. And so I think that's cool. Yeah. I've also been playing Humankind, David.
Oh, that's Xbox Game Pass, right?
It is Yes, it is. It's on Game Pass. I'm playing it on the PC part of Game Pass. It is very, like, for somebody who hasn't played this or knows what it is, it's very much a Civilization kind of game. Yeah. I think some folks who are a little bit more familiar with this genre might call it a 4X game. I forget what that stands for. It's like fucking expand. Yeah, something like that. It's like essentially games where you have like towns and cities that you're building and you can go to war with other
explore,
like, places.
Expand, exterminate.
Something like that, yeah. It's like war, essentially. Yeah, like there's a lot of war involved usually. And so I wasn't following the development of this game very much, but I sort of in understanding it since launch is definitely going after the Civ market. Like there's a lot of the game that looks very much like Civilization. Sorry, I should say the full fucking name of the video game.
Sid Meier's Civilization.
Sid Meier's, yeah, Sid Meier's Civilization.
Is it Sid Meier or Sid Meier?
I think it's Sid Meier.
Sid Meier? Oh, I've been saying it wrong this whole time. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, so this game definitely got me with UI fatigue, which is kind of wild for given that like a lot of it is very Civilization-y and is something that I have played before at length, like played a lot of Civilization, and it's still just like there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of mechanics. And so I think I may need to like go into it probably with like a more willing to learn mind. Sure. I think that it's kind of hard to do a game like this where you are so specifically taking after one kind of game Like I played Endless Legend back in the day, which is like a game that goes after kind of a similar genre. Like it is, you build cities, you have units, you can go to war with other people and all sorts of shit. But like, I think because it wasn't just specifically Civ minded, I was like, okay, well, like this is different enough to the point where I'm not just always comparing it to Civilization. I know there are many more games in this genre, but that's, a cornerstone, I think, for me and for probably a lot of players. And so like, because that game was different, it didn't trigger the same thing in my mind that is happening now when I'm playing Humankind, where all I'm doing is comparing it to Civilization. Like just the whole time I'm like, okay, so we have a research tree, a production tree.
Just the comparison's weak for Chase.
Yeah, for real though. And like,
you're not Hades. You're not Civilization.
You're not Ron.
You're not Ron. Chase is the Brick Tamlin of video games this week.
So I think this one specifically, because it's so tied to this specific game, is hard not to compare to. And I think like that's probably intentional, right? Like they're trying to say we are able to make a game that addresses some of the complaints of some people. Because I know, historically Civ has certain things about it that I think people who are really into the series would be like, well, why can't I build I think they call it like a tall empire? Like you have one really good city rather than like 100 other kind of okay cities.
Sure.
Like in Civilization, you were very much rewarded for just making a ton of cities.
Yeah, it's true.
Sometimes that becomes more difficult, but more often than not, a civilization succeeds when it has a shitload of cities or conquers a bunch of people, rather than ones that have one city. And so I know that like they were trying to do a game that makes it available to do just the one.
You could make a city state.
Yeah, like it make a place that is very powerful, but is not very huge. And so, yeah, I think that it does a good job at that. I was definitely enjoying that part of it. I think all this said, I would probably need to play a significantly larger amount of this game to really come down on it one way or another.
Yeah, these are games that take a long time to play.
Yeah, like hours and hours and hours just to play through like one game.
Yeah.
It does... I will say it does like kind of interesting stuff with the combat. It's not just like hit dude. Like there's a little bit of positioning that has to happen that I think is fun.
Okay.
And so it is doing new things. I think it's just so hard to make a game that is so similar to all this stuff. I think about what was that game that like the creator of Mega Man did a Kickstarter for and made another Mega Man?
I have no idea.
Mighty Number 9 is the game that I'm thinking of.
I mean, I know the Castlevania equivalent of that is Ritual of Blood or whatever it is.
Right, yeah.
I didn't know Mega Man did it too.
They did. It was not received super well at all.
Oh no.
Yeah, it felt like not so good. And so I think about those games when I'm thinking about this genre of games that is so specifically like, this is something we're doing. We're doing this game specifically. And that one makes sense, right? Like the, what was his name? Kenji Inafune?
Yeah.
Was the creator of Mega Man. So like of course he's going to like want to do another Mega Man. Like Capcom hasn't fucking said okay. But when somebody who isn't that big of a person, or even when they are, makes a game that is so similar to another work, it's hard not to compare the two. And so whatever bias you have coming into that is front and center. Like I like Civ a lot. And so there's a fair amount of me that's like a little bit averse to learning a whole new system for a game that is very similar. But I think there is also enough of me that like clearly this game has something going on and I do want to explore what it has to offer.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Humankind.
Cool. Oh, and quickly, 4X, explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate.
The colonialization simulator, for better or worse.
You're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong.
Okay. Last week I had talked about Garden Story. And I was very close to the end. I've now beaten Garden Story.
Nice.
It's a very good video game. The Garden Story.
You liked it?
I really liked it. It was like not where I saw it going narratively. And I think that was like a good thing. I really couldn't tell what was actually happening. But there was, I guess, kind of spoilers. It's not really a huge deal, but like at some point you get like a kind of musical instrument in the game. And if you go up and play music for the rot, like the little monsters, they'll just kind of like go docile and dance. And so you're like,
really?
That feels kind of bad that I'm killing these things. That's not so good.
Murder them while they dance, Chase.
Yeah. So it's like, what? Maybe they're not just like this terrible bad guy. And so like the story built on a lot of that. And so, yeah, it was just really good. I found it so concise and just like really charming all the way through. You definitely go on to care about a lot of these characters. Plum specifically was pretty hard not to care about. Plum, they were there since like the very beginning of the game, and it was just like, I think I said most of what I had to say about Garden Story last week. Like a lot of what was true then is still true now. even after having beaten it. And like I said when I was talking about Dreamscaper, I think the like motif that they use of setting memories that you've made in the game as your way to power yourself up and get like passive stronger is just so nice. Like that feels so good, and like a better way to level up than just like
you got some stat points. You got some gems.
You got stronger, dude. Yeah, like the memories that you have made have like changed something about you.
You have inner strength now.
Yeah, love that. I love that. So yeah, I think as per last week, if this game sounds interesting, I mean, go listen to that episode because I think probably do a better job explaining what it is then. But yeah, it was fucking great. I love Garden's story. As I said then, reminds me a lot of Chicory in the conciseness of its story and gameplay. The last game that I played, David.
Yes.
It was Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Whoa. Didn't you already play this one?
I didn't beat it.
Oh.
I played most of this game.
Did you play Final Fantasy VII Remake or Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade? Intergarde.
I did not play that yet. I played just the regular Final Fantasy VII Remake.
What's the difference between those two?
One of them is like an expansion, essentially. You play as Yuffie. I think it's Yuffie. I forget exactly.
I think it's Yuffie, right?
Yeah, no, it's like her story.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different. It's like they're essentially filling out her backstory of when, Cloud and all the folks are doing their thing in Midgar, essentially what's going on with her.
Cool. Okay.
I haven't played it yet, so I don't know what the fuck happens.
I was just very confused that was happening.
Yeah. No, for sure.
It makes sense. All right.
So I didn't beat this game. I stopped. Where was I? I guess. No, I won't spoil it. I was like right towards the end of the game. For this won't spoil anything, but I was right before Shinra HQ, which is like a very significant and sizable plot beat in the game and pretty much the last thing in the game.
Sure.
And I'm dumb for not having played the rest of this video game.
Yeah.
Because it ends very well.
Yeah, that was good.
It's very cool. It's nuts. Like it just like explodes, and like I get what everybody's talking about now, like the context of why this is not a straight Final Fantasy VII remake, that there's a lot of other shit going on there, is so cool. The stuff, like I sort of inferred what people were talking about with how they recontextualize the story of Final Fantasy VII, especially in the context of a remake. All throughout the game, there are these things that are called whispers that are sort of, they look like ghosts that are kind of fucking with you at any of these like major plot beats. And the whole time you're like, I don't understand why these things are here. I don't get it. Maybe you can kind of glean what's going on and what they might be doing, but you don't understand why. And at the end of the game, they sort of explain what's going on. And it is like shocking how cool it is. Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, Shinra HQ is incredible. It looked like, okay, so I also got it on PlayStation 5. Like I did the whole rigmarole of downloading the PlayStation 4 version, uploading my save, and then downloading the PlayStation 5 version.
Whoa.
And downloading my save.
That's big.
It was challenging. It honestly just took a lot of download time, like more than anything. But good God, dude, like the 60 frame a second upgrade is pretty staggering. The game looks just absolutely mind-blowing. It's shocking how good that game looks.
So do they release it separately for the PlayStation 5, or is it like a free up boost?
I didn't have to pay for it. If I said like, okay, I have the PlayStation 4 version, they're like, okay, you got the PS5 one too.
Nice.
Yeah, which is a huge relief. Like, please don't make me pay for this again.
Yeah.
So that was great. And yeah, it was a great way to finish the game because it looks unbelievable on the TV. Yeah, I'm thrilled about where this series is going to go now, because the fucking guardrails are off at this point.
Sure.
How the end happens. I'm just so excited. I like love the risk that they took in the narrative.
So they really changed it up, huh?
Pretty significantly. Again, it's so hard to talk about without totally spoiling the whole thing, but like essentially like they have opened it up to the point where like they can kind of do whatever after this, and like it would make sense. So yeah, it's great. I had played Final Fantasy VII, like the regular version, a couple of years ago. I don't think we were making the show then.
I think you talked about it a little bit.
Did I really?
I think so.
Like I don't remember at all, but
you played it on the Switch, didn't you?
I did.
I think you talked about it.
Totally possible. Yeah. I really liked it, and like not experiencing it when it came out, I think is a very different experience than playing it now. Just because like so much of it is so different than I think, especially as it was in the remake, but like there's so much stuff that you have to infer, right? Like a lot of the graphics are leaving a lot up to your imagination. The localization is leaving a lot up to your imagination, because oftentimes it's like, I don't really know what they're trying to say here. But in this one, it's so much more clear cut, and just the level of polish on this video game is unbelievable from start to finish. It just, again, feels like a very authored experience in a way that is not emergent. It's somebody has looked at every corner of this video game and made it just incredible. And so it's been really cool to play the remake version of this as a new experience, because it's sort of what I imagine it felt like to play it then. It's just fucking unbelievable. And again, like I've said this before, I'll say it again. The music in this game is so good in the ways that it sort of plays with the themes of the original game without giving you just a straight cover. And that is so like the game to a T. That description of it is the video game. Is it gives you really what you want out of this experience, but expands on it, and also like sort of plays with it in ways that are really fun and sort of subvert what your mind is really just like craving in the moment, but it ends up being a much more interesting experience.
Sure.
God, the game is good. I'm so bummed out that I didn't beat it, because I had like a few hours left. I was so close and just like fell off for whatever reason.
Bummer.
I think, like, to be fair, the place that I was stuck at was like the sewers towards the end of the level or the end of the game. And I was like, I don't think I want to wander through the sewers right now. But like immediately after that is the end of the game. And so I was like, oh fuck, I could have just done this a year ago, but here I am. So yeah, this game is really fucking good. I'm thrilled about whatever they're going to do with it. Cool. This will bring me to my optimistic thing of the week, David.
All right, let's hear it.
It's the Frogger television show that is coming out soon.
There's a what? There is?
Yes, there is. And I know you've already guessed it. I know you know what this show is, because it is a stunt-based competition show, which of course. That
that's awesome.
It is not unlike Wipeout, or The Floor is Lava, or something like that, where there are a bunch of obstacles that you need to go through to get to the end. And I think it's Frogger themed. So there's that. It looks terrible, and I love that. I don't partake in a ton of trashy TV. Usually it's a little bit too much for me. This specific genre of like somebody has to cross a pool with obstacles in the way is so my specific genre of trash. I just love it. Like they make
that's my
hundreds.
Trash.
It really is. They make hundreds of episodes of this kind of bullshit, and I'm just always like, yes, I love that. I love seeing like otherwise fit people just kind of slip and fall into a pool, and like that's just so much shit.
Like Wipeout, Ninja Warrior.
Love Wipeout. Ninja Warrior is like just a little elevated because there's like a little bit of athleticism in there. Like you gotta be strong to partake in Ninja Warrior.
Ninja Warrior is fast casual dining.
Absolutely, yeah. It is the Chipotle of television, of competition water shows.
This is the Five Guys style situation over here, please.
But yeah, no, Frogger, the competition show, is certainly like McDonald's. I don't even know. Probably more of a cash grab than that.
Was it like Pizza Hut?
Yeah, I think it might be closer to Pizza Hut. Like, I think Wipeout is the McDonald's of these kind of competition shows, because like, I don't know, there's a little bit of prestige with Wipeout, a little bit of prestige with your trash. Prestige. But yeah, no, this one feels a little bit more pizza. Sorry, Pizza Hut fans. I don't mean to shit on your pizza, but among the delivery pizzas.
Can you get Pizza Hut delivered? I've only ever taken their pre-made, straight fresh out the box.
Pizza Hut has pre-made pizzas?
Am I thinking about Pizza Hut?
You're thinking about Little Caesars?
Little Caesars. That's the one I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about Little Caesars.
Friend. Now you're thinking about a different variety of trash.
I don't think I've had Pizza Hut. I've had Little Caesars. We all seized with Little Caesars quite a bit.
Yeah, I have some thoughts about Little Caesars that I will save for another podcast.
So we're going to have a Little Caesars themed podcast?
Pizza Podtimism is where we're at.
Pizza-mism?
I could easily make a weekly pizza episode, David. That is not a problem.
Let's just do our top 20 slices next week. Just like forget video games. This is a pizza cast now. Man,
yeah. Absolutely. Top 20 is not an exaggeration.
When's National Pizza Day? Wednesday, February 9th.
It's coming up. National Pizza Pie Day is what it says. Wow. I'm very excited about National Pizza Day. We have to do something. both order a couple of pies and see if we can get through it.
A couple?
You know?
Oh my goodness gracious.
I would like to be the Joey Chestnut of pizzas. I think is what I'm saying.
Chestnut of pizzas.
David, do you have something fueling your sense of optimism?
I do, and it's breaking the fourth wall.
Ooh, love that. This is definitely something that I feel like is very like polarizing. I feel like some people hate when people break the fourth wall. I love it.
I like it too. I like it especially in like I'm thinking about the Messenger.
Yeah.
Where they definitely talk about like, oh, if you just want to do it easily, just press Y.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or like I feel like the shopkeeper does it a lot, where he's like is talking to the player, obviously, as opposed to just the messenger. So I just enjoy it when they do that, and it's kind of like as an aside type of thing, not like a ham-fisted like look at the camera sort of situation. You know,
I have no problem with them looking at the camera. For the record, I kind of like that.
In a video game, it might be spooky if they did that. I don't know if I've ever seen that in a video game before, but. Instance like Kratos is just chopping someone's head off. Look at the camera, smile, like, hey,
you're next.
Look at this crazy situation I got in. Record scratch.
Yep, that's me. I'm Kratos. You might be wondering how I got myself into this situation.
It's just him ripping a Gorgon apart.
Huh? Or him getting his face smashed in by the Valkyries whenever they like come through the portal.
Fucking the stiletto of death right on your face.
Yeah.
Like, oh god, please stop.
Oh man,
that's good.
I think Banjo-Kazooie did a lot of fourth wall breaking, if I remember correctly. A lot of talking about the fact that they were in a video game, which I thought was so funny when I was younger.
Yeah, I feel like that's the thing that video games do the most. Like they're just aware that they are in a video game.
Yeah,
about like, hey, it's a video game, whatever, just living my life.
It was also much more common when games had no problem, like just putting in a text box like, "Hello, hero. If you would like to jump, you must press A." Like this is much more commonplace. I feel like a lot of games try to disguise that with like, you know, the Last of Us 2 intro where you're playing shooting and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, no, games in the late 90s and early 2000s were like, yeah, press Y to swing your sword, you dingus.
Just do the thing. It's a game. Have fun.
Yeah, love a good fourth wall break. Speaking of fourth wall breaking, do you want to talk about our game, our main thing?
Yeah.
Cool. It's Good Games, David.
Oh, we're back.
It's Good Games again. Last week, we did an unironically good game. Very, very, very quality, good stuff. We have maybe a controversial pick this week because this one it has more caveats that come with it.
Yeah.
But on this week of Good Games, the segment where we talk about all the best games of yesteryear and gush all the things that we love about them, we're going to talk about the first 3 Spyro games.
Oh, yeah.
Spyro the Dragon. We want to talk about this little purple guy.
Spyro.
I feel like this game is held up a lot of the time as like one of the classics. And like
classic platformer.
Yeah, like just like one of the best video games. I feel like people are like, yeah, definitely Spyro the Dragon. And I was, I think, among that crowd for a long time. And then like maybe a year or two ago when like the remastered collection came out, I was like, okay, I want to play Spyro again. And did not love my time with it. And so I think like I wanted to revisit this in like maybe a little bit better of a headspace to be like, what's going on here? Why is this game the way it is?
Okay, yeah.
What was your experience with Spyro?
First of all, just let me say I only played the first one.
Yeah, sure, no worries. Like they're mechanically so fucking similar. I played through most of the 3, and like it's the same fucking game for a lot of them.
Yeah,
especially in the remastered collection because like visually they are so similar.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the last time I played it was I got it on Christmas Day with my PlayStation. Yeah, and I hooked it up to that old CRTV and just ran around that first level as little purple dragon, having a great time. So I pretty much just played. I think I had the second one. I don't know how much I played it as a kid.
Ripto's Rage.
But I played the first 2 as a kid when they like first came out, which is so long ago now.
It's been quite some time.
Been a while.
I also played a lot of them when I was younger. I think I don't remember exactly which one I played the most of. Probably the first one, but I also like in playing through the third one was like, no, I definitely remember a lot of this too. And yeah, like loved it at the time. Like was just obsessed with this game when it had come out. I remember very vividly, my mom had like planned some kind of birthday for me. I'd gotten Spyro not long before that and was like so bummed out that I had to go to my own birthday rather than continue playing Spyro the Dragon. I was like, man, this sucks. I just want to go fucking play more Spyro. I don't want people to celebrate me. This stinks. On that note, can I hit you with some hot stats?
Yeah, hit me with the hot stats.
Cool.
Hot stats. Hot stats.
So, Spyro the Dragon, the first one, came out in 1998. And then Ripto's Rage came out in 1999. And Year of the Dragon came out in 2000. Back to back to back.
Wow.
So quickly. Yeah, the turnaround on
Dang.
these games was absolutely bananas. And I think you see that. Like, having played all three of them, not all the way through, but like I've played all three of them recently. They're very, very similar games. I presume they probably just got like the engine right the first time, and they're like, okay, we can probably just like do a little bit
levels.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't blame them. They had a good hit on their hands, and so like I'm not surprised that they were like, yes, more, please. It was made by Insomniac. You have certainly heard of this company.
Sure.
This was their first big hit, I would say. They had, I think it was the game before this was called Disruptor, but that was not a commercial success. You have certainly heard of their other games. Obviously Spyro. They made all the Ratchet and Clank games, including the most recent one. They made the Resistance Fall of Man, which we have talked about before.
Oh, yeah.
And the Marvel Spider-Man games, and also Miles Morales. So
yeah, those are good. Oh,
some
that's a
good
list of
video
really good games.
Yeah, no, like their catalog, I'm like, geez, y'all made some good video games. So some pedigree there. But yeah, I think it's worth noting that like this was their first kind of like major success, and it pushed a lot of stuff forward, like computationally. Like they did a lot of stuff to work with like draw distance, like your sort of field of vision and like what's rendering and shit like that to make the game run really well, because it ran pretty fucking well on PlayStation.
It did.
PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
And I remember it looking pretty good at the time. Obviously, it looks really rough now, but like it was super impressive at the day that they were able to make the game run so smoothly, because like that was such an issue back in the day.
Sure
like
was.
Slow down and the fucking frames dropping and shit like that. Like it didn't seem like a lot of games were making that transition to 3D particularly smoothly. So yeah, I do have a review from our friends at Joe Video.
Joe Video. God.
Joe.
I get sponsored by Joe Video.
They're on a streak recently. They're really crushing this segment. I've taken the review from Joe Video. I've ran it through Google Translate through as many languages as I could find and spat it back out in English to better understand their message.
Let's hear it. Better understand their message. The hidden message inside Joe Video.
Cracking the Da Vinci Code at long last. Okay, so of Ripto's Rage, they had to say, Kim is good. Some criticize it for being old, but if you actually play it, the small antenna is so attractive, and the melody of the song becomes more enjoyable when you become an adult. Fame is very difficult. 85 out of 100 from Joe.
Fame is very difficult. Is this a review of the first one? Or is
Ripto's Rage.
This
Yeah,
a
the
review of
second
number
one.
2?
I like the
Interesting.
melody of the song becomes more enjoyable when you become an adult. Like, they're saying that there's a lot of context that you don't have when you're a kid to really enjoy the melody of Ripto's Rage.
Yeah, you didn't know what you were missing, kid.
You need adult ears. You need elf ears to understand this one.
You need elf ears.
Could you do a little rundown for me of what this video game is? What is Spyro the Dragon?
Spyro the Dragon is a 3D platformer.
Yes.
Where you play as Spyro, a little spunky purple dragon.
He's got the DreamWorks face down, man. This is the DreamWorks face. The cocked eyebrow. I'm a little stinker.
I'm a
face.
lovable little stinker, actually. Lovable little stinker. That's the key part right there.
Yeah. He's cute, but I got attitude. I'm going to burn up some bad guys.
I'm cute, I have attitude, and I disrespect my elders. There's
that,
There's a lot of
Mom.
old, elder shaming in this game.
Yeah, you don't know shit,
Surprisingly
older
enough.
dragons. World renowned for their unknowingness. Old, shitty, stupid dragons.
Pretty much. I mean, they all got turned to crystal, and Spyro didn't. But
So how good could they really be?
yeah. But that's the crux of the game is you are in the beginning like getting interviewed, like a couple of dragons in your area are getting interviewed for some reason, and they're just like, this guy out of nowhere, they're just like, this guy Nasty Nork, he's not a threat to us because he sucks and he's ugly, and unbeknownst to them, Nasty Nork is watching on the television. He's like, I'm gonna turn you all to crystal, and just does it and blasts them to crystal on the television. and all the dragons get turned to crystal except for Spyro for some reason. Quick aside, Nasty Nork is kind of a cool name. That sounds like that sounds like a rapper name.
Absolutely.
You know?
I was gonna say like a Brooklyn rapper.
Yeah, like it reminds me of Nasty Nos, you know.
Absolutely.
But Nasty Nork, ooh, it's got a stink to it.
I love that it's spelled with a G.
Yeah, both Nasty and Nork are spelled with G's. Silent
Oh my
G's.
God. Yeah, hell yeah.
G Nasty Nork. G Nasty G Nork. So
What do you think the title of his debut album would be?
it's just G.
Ooh, love that. It's evocative.
Capital G.
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful stuff.
Capital G, lowercase g.
If he puts out a follow-up album, I would love it to be GG.
GG.
Or just good game.
Wait, it could be capital G's the first one, then lowercase g's the second one?
I mean either one. I'll take lowercase G as the second one. Third album is GG. Fourth album is
Nork
F.
Nork did it to you. I don't know.
Nork let the dogs out.
Here we Nork
big,
again.
Big Nork style.
Big Norky style. Oh my God.
How to Nork a butterfly.
How to Nork a butterfly. Oh no.
Ooh, you could do New York State of Mind, but just spell New York with a G in there.
New Nork state of mind.
Yeah, exactly. My beautiful dark twisted Nork.
Oh, that sounds nasty.
Oh yeah. Good kid Nork City.
Good kid Nork City. Nork kid nasty city.
Why not? Good Nork Mad City.
This city made me nasty. I was just Nork before.
License to Nork. Get Nork or die trying.
Get Nork or die.
Get rich or Nork trying.
Get Nork. Get nasty or Nork trying.
2001, but you spell it like Nork.
Nork. God,
it's nothing.
it's nothing.
It's nothing.
That one
okay,
don't work.
Sorry.
That one don't work.
It sure doesn't. What else did we have to explain about this video game? Was that it?
Flower Nork. Anyways,
Yeah.
so you go around. There's 6 different like overworld levels, and each overworld level has like a Mario 64-esque pathways to different sub levels within it.
Yep.
So you just go through these different portals, and they take you to separate areas to like run through a level and beat a boss and to rescue different dragons. So you have to go and you have to rescue the dragons, collect the treasure that your society had built up that had been scattered across the area, and then also rescue these eggs that these little thieves have taken.
Yeah.
And man, their little sound clip I didn't realize was stuck inside of my psyche
Yeah.
for so long. I was just minding my own business, going around, and I heard that nah, 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 and I was like, immediately saw red. I'm like, I gotta get this
Blacked
guy
out.
right now. Because I was never able to get them as a kid. They were so hard to get.
It's
for
really hard
for my dumb little fingers. You really got to gun hard for them.
It's so nuts that I read that one of the complaints about a lot of the Spyro games is that they were too easy.
The skills vary very wildly. I found some things are quite difficult to do.
Certainly, definitely.
Other things are just like a cakewalk.
Yeah.
Like it was not hard for me to beat this game in one day. Like just going through, like pretty easy. If you're trying to unlock everything, maybe a little bit more difficult. But
much harder.
Just doing the main story and beating Nasty Nork, not hard at all.
Yeah, I just found it again, I'm always interested in what people were talking about at the time, like what people complained about these sort of games, and it was very common to see them say like too easy. And like I have no problem with this game being easy at all. Like,
oh yeah, I didn't have a problem with it. It's just how it is.
For sure.
It doesn't really push against you.
It seems like almost a statistic at this point, like rather than like something to complain about. Like it's a fairly easy game. Like, okay, that's fine.
It just is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
But yeah, there were parts of it that like really kicked my ass. Those little dudes who you had to catch were like, you had to run they have like a route that they'll run in the game, and like you have to be so fucking perfect at running that route to like gain on them. Like
you gotta cut those corners. You gotta hug the wall hard, and if you get off, it's over. It's over.
Yeah, you've lost.
You gotta
like,
reset.
There's so many of these reviews I thought were fucking hilarious. This one, Kristen Boyer of Electronic Gaming Monthly proclaimed that Spyro raises the bar for 3D platformers and it has replaced and wrote that it had replaced Gex 3D as his favorite PS mascot.
Oh man,
so incredible!
That didn't age well.
Comparing it favorably to one of the more recent platformers on the system, Blasto, and proclaiming that it excels over Blasto in every way imaginable. That I agree with. It is much better than Blasto.
Not hard. Sorry, Blasto fans.
Sorry, Blasto boys. Oh my god. Yeah. I think that's all of the stats for Spyro.
Mm-hmm.
So just to like round out the other three, let me explain how they differ from the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Very similar structure. I think in the second one, it's a little bit more focused on just getting through the level directly. Like you'll go through these worlds and just like literally getting from point A to point B will usually give you, I think it's like talismans that you use to sort of like progress through the game. And then eventually it switches over to these like orbs that you have to collect to progress. And so it's kind of a weird switch up at the end of the game that I actually didn't really love. Like sort of like a very odd, like in Banjo-Kazooie, if they were like, okay, we've been collecting these like note pieces the whole time, and now we're going to introduce this other thing that you've been maybe paying attention to for a while, maybe not. And so I didn't like love that part of it, but in the third one, it kind of goes back to the form from the first one where you're kind of dumped into a level and you are trying to essentially find a bunch of dragon eggs. Like that's the thing in the level that you're responsible for finding, getting, and retrieving. And so it functions much more like the dragon statues where you go in the first one, where you go and just like find all the other dragons.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think functionally they are very similar games. There's like a few other like characters you can play as in the third one. You have to like unlock them from fucking Moneybags, who's like the villain of this entire series.
Oh my god. Huh?
He just the whole time he's like an arms dealer. He keeps people fucking in prison. You have to pay their like bail to get them out. Like he's horrible.
Oh no!
Immediately in the second game, the moment Ripto offers him some cash, he's like, "Yeah, for sure, I'll take that," and then just like totally betrays the whole team. Next level, he's like, "Well, you actually have to pay me 500 jewels if you want to get through this part." Like the villain.
Wow.
He's
Teach him
horrible.
young about the horrors of capitalism, right?
Seriously. Which, to be fair, they all hate him. So like, okay, that's fine. That's good.
That's good.
But yeah, I think like by and large, very similar games. And like we were saying before, these games came out with like in a 3-year span.
That's unheard of
like,
nowadays.
That's a shocking pace, like so fast.
Yeah. Like I found it shocking that Insomniac was able to do like Spider-Man and Miles Morales so close together, even though they're pretty much like the same engine. But
yeah,
but still impressive. So they have a history of doing this kind of stuff, it seems.
For sure.
Pumping
and I think that like some of that is certainly the complexity of the game. You know, like it is less complex to make a Spyro game than it is to make, you know, a Spider-Man game.
Mm-hmm.
There are less things going on there, but it is still pretty shocking that they came up with, you know, that amount of content in such a short amount of time. So let's do some gushing.
Okay.
And I like also just like want to figure out if this game is good. that may sound unpoptimistic, and like I'm not trying to take it that way, but like I think in playing it is not like this golden child of video gaming.
Yeah.
It's not the perfect game that I thought it was going to be. Returning to it, there's a lot sort of lacking there.
Yeah, I'd say it's still good. I don't know if it's definitely not like amazing or great. It's like it's good. It's a good game.
Yeah, and I think like in playing this, I feel like I don't know, I feel like such a boomer, but like it is like when I heard from our parents talk about how fucking sick it was when the Beatles came out, how crazy everyone was about this. And then like you listen to it in like 1999 and you're like, this sounds like fucking everything, dude. Like this sounds like every other band.
Yep.
And like just the context of it is not there. And like obviously an incredible band, right? Like it very, very good. And it makes incredible songs. Like the songwriting is unparalleled. But because of the influence that it had, you see a lot of stuff that is similar out there now that it is more modern and it has a lot better stuff going on. It feels similar to be like, I would not expect somebody who picked this up, you know, who's 12 or something like that now to be like, damn, that was a good game. I bet it would feel incredibly dated.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's sort of an odd one to return to, but why don't we do like what has maybe aged a little bit less well now, and then we can sort of unload and gush about it, because there is obviously like a lot of incredible stuff in here. So I think mechanically it's just kind of hard to control. Like, it's hard to control Spyro himself.
Yeah, when he gets running around, the camera is kind of all over the place. When you have to do like a long jump, like the switching between the pounce and the glide feels
where
a
you get the
little
boost or
wonky.
whatever. Yeah.
I definitely found those too, and it's the hitbox for the flames was a little confusing.
Yeah.
I felt
Yeah,
like
never really sure.
definitely sometimes, especially like in the flying levels, I felt like I hit it, just nothing
Wasn't there.
was just like not close enough. So yeah, I think I think like base movement and like jumping feels okay, but even then, like the lack of a double jump, there are some platforms and ledges where it's like I'm definitely over the first step, and I'm like halfway to the second step. So just my
Natural gamer instinct is
press it again to double jump, but that just makes me glide, and then I just glide into the wall and just
constantly. I do that
clunk,
constantly.
clunk. Clunk. I'm like, oh god, I gotta stop doing that. But I don't know if that was like a Spyro thing or if that's just a me thing, learning that after many years of gaming. Because it's not like Mario 64 had a double jump.
No, it didn't, but it still felt very good.
Yeah.
I think there was just a lot of stuff that I think was still being learned at the time about like what felt right and good. And like this was in 98, right? Like Mario 64 had only been out for like a year or two. And so like I'm not surprised that like this is an incredible game for one of the first like very good 3D platformers. But obviously in hindsight, like it's just, there's a lot of stuff that you're like, man, this feels aged. We have learned how to do platforming well. And especially given that like Ratchet and Clank came out not that long ago and just felt sublime at every moment in that game. Nothing felt like it was doing what I didn't expect it to do or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like, the jumping all felt right. Camera was always good.
Yeah. Well, then Ratchet 1 came out like, what, 4 years after Spyro 3?
Which I think speaks to like just how quickly things were evolving at the time. Like how fast the industry was moving as far as like standards and things that they were doing. But yeah, I think a lot of the movement in hindsight is like, I don't know. I just found myself a lot of the time like under my breath being like, God damn it. Like, I didn't mean to do that. Or like, that wasn't what I was trying to do.
Yeah. A lot of what I would do. Like just all of a sudden just stopping my glide and just like plummeting to my death quite a few times. Quite a few times.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that it is harder after having played a lot of games that have done this stuff better. And so like, I don't necessarily want to lean on it was good for its time. You know, like that's not a really great way to play a game in 2021 because that doesn't last very long. Yeah. Like I was able to say like, this was great for its time, but like that wasn't what was pulling me through playing these games at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like just like design wise, a lot of the character designs have not aged super well. Like a lot of like super stereotypical shit of like, hey, we're in the Asian level. Yeah, I bet we're gonna handle that really good. Like all that sort of shit. Right? Like there's some weird stuff. Yeah, like
I didn't get as much of that in the first game.
It was more in Ripto's Rage, I will say. Like the third one didn't have as much of it either, but like the second one was weirdly just like, what the fuck is going on in here? Why are you guys like making these broad generalizations? Yeah. And like not to say every other fucking game wasn't like that at the time, but still it was just like parts of it were like shocking, like painful to sort of experience. So yeah, it was that. I think that part of it was also not super great. We played through most of Ripto's Rage, I think yesterday. Kept calling it like a colonialization video game because there's always two warring factions in any level that you show up to. And Spyro just comes in and like beats the shit out of one of them. And like, it's just like, hello, I've solved all my problems with the help of my moneybags friend who has sold me arms, and I've come in here and blown everybody up.
Oh, man.
Now this side of the war has won.
Uh-oh. How do you know if you chose the right side?
You don't. The game just tells you this is what's going on. You're going to help these people.
All right.
Sometimes it's like, well, definitely the other guys are bad. Like, oh, babe, I'm going to help the baby turtles out of the people who are trying to electrocute them. Sure. But like just two like dudes who are fighting, I don't know which one's worse.
Sure.
So all that stuff is very, very odd. But yeah, why don't we talk about what like has aged pretty well and what feels really good.
And the first one, at least, I did like the different levels, the different areas you could go to. They're all decently unique.
Yeah.
I thought that it did have some interesting platforming elements to it with like the different power-ups you could get to access different areas. Yeah. It wasn't always super clear about how you were supposed to interact with said power-ups and said other objects in the area to access these other area, hidden parts of it, but you could get there eventually. Yeah. So I thought that was good. And I do just enjoy the stylized world, right? I remember that being a big part of the game back then, and I think they did a good job of giving it a fresh coat of paint and making it look the same kind of eye-catchingly colorful and cartoony characters and level design that engages you visually quite well, I thought.
Yeah, it's like kind of bubblegum fun. Like it's just like so like chipper and bright.
Yeah, and the music also I think adds a good element.
The music
to it.
is very good.
The music is very catchy. Each level has a nice set of songs for it.
Did you know that Stuart Copeland made the music for this game?
No.
The drummer for The Police.
That's so random. But now that I look back on it, I could kind of see it.
It like doesn't sound like a video game soundtrack, and like that's not a bad thing. Like it doesn't sound bad at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's very odd. Like I'll put some music in here. I'm sure anybody who's played like Spyro knows sort of the vibe of the music in here, but it's very strange. It doesn't track like a normal video game soundtrack.
Yeah, it's very vibey and like there's actual vibes, I think.
Yes, like there's a vibraphone in this fucking soundtrack.
And like a lot of xylophone and marimba and like stuff, kind of like percussive instruments, which makes sense. He's Stuart Copeland, he's a drummer.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, but that's an interesting little factoid there. That's a hot fact.
That's a hot fact. That's a hot stat.
That's a hot fact.
Hot stat. Hot fact.
Interesting. Yeah, but I thought the music was good. And I thought for the most part, the platforming was engaging. I did think that there were some frustrating things about it. Like, sometimes the gliding wouldn't work perfectly. Sometimes the jumping felt needlessly tedious. Punitive and tedious with just kind of the height of some of the platforms that you were jumping up. Mm-hmm. But I did enjoy like the little boost ramps that you could go down to charge really fast.
Yeah.
I did enjoy for the most part just being able to kind of ram and blow fire through pretty much any enemy and just kind of feel like an unstoppable little dragon. There was one point where, what was it? I was thinking it was the first like flight level you do in the artisan world, and you had to go and like blow up a train with barrels, and I'm just like, I had Game of Thrones flashbacks. I'm like, I'm Drogon. I'm Drogon right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Spoilers for Game of Thrones. I'm Drogon destroying the Lannister army outside of King's Landing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just murking them. So yeah, that was definitely fun. There was definitely some high points to the platforming and the gameplay that I think stand out more often than the low points do for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's good and bad, but there's just more good than bad. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense and doesn't sound too rudimentary.
No, I understand what you're saying. Like, I feel like maybe this is like just showing my own bias, but I feel like so much of Mario 64 and a lot of Nintendo games are just like stellar at every point of them.
Sure.
Even like Mario 64 is an older game than this, but like every part of it feels so goddamn polished. But with this game, I think like even with Crash Bandicoot, like those games feel very of their time. And there are parts of it that are bad, that do not feel very good now. Yeah. And like didn't really at the time. I think we were just like kind of putting up with how challenging and sort of punitive those games can be. Mm-hmm. Again, the concept of just like lives being a thing in this game is so odd and weird.
Yeah.
Like, why? Why do I need like... I understand say something in like Donkey Kong Country, you have lives and you essentially have to make it from one part of the game to the next and like to hit a save point. And so there's challenge in that, right? Like it's hard to do that. And there's definitely an argument to be made about that is not as fun as just being able to play through the levels. Mm-hmm. With Spyro, it's like if you die, you just go back to like the overworld and like you have to just like run back to where you were playing. It's like very odd that like why are you even tracking my lives at this point? You can just like not and let me play the game.
It's a very low risk game. Mm-hmm. I never at one point really felt legitimately challenged. Mm-hmm. Like maybe some of the times when I had to chase those guys.
Yeah.
It felt a little challenging, but yeah, there was no threat of anything in these levels to like make me a little bit more engaged. I felt very flat, I guess. Yeah. Kind of playing through the games because I had so many lives that it just didn't really matter. I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, but it kind of just led to me feeling flat. Like there was no emotionality.
I think it's just like that a lot of the the design decisions were a lot of inherited things that games had already been doing.
Yeah.
Like lives were a thing that you just track. That's a thing that we do in video games. And so like they've inherited that here. And where like, if you really look at it and sort of squint, you're like, why are we even doing this? Like we can just spit you back out at a place right before that to do the challenge again if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so yeah, I agree with all your points there. I think that like the game in places does feel really good. There's like a lot of highs in this game, including the lows, but there are a lot of highs that like, I get why people point to it and say like, this is a really fucking good video game, because there are parts that are like, oh, that was really fun or like really cool. Like you said, I think, you know, some of the levels are just like stellar. Like they're very fun and entertaining and like a very cool concept. I found a lot more of those in Year of the Dragon, the third one, than I did in Ripto's Rage. Like just a lot more inventive stuff going on. And especially when the like eggs were kind of scattered throughout the levels. And so rather than just like, I need to get through this level specifically, it's like, well, let me go wander around in here and see what kind of challenges I can go dig up to do to like get another thing, you know? And so I found that all very good. There's also a skateboarding mini game in the third one, which is so ridiculous.
That's
like,
funny.
It's just so 2000 that like they were like, hey, Tony Hawk Pro Skater is incredibly popular. We should probably add a skateboarding mini game.
Get in there. Let's get in there.
Get a hand on that ball. So yeah, like this game was doing a lot of stuff with like exploration that I think 3D games at the time were trying to do in general, which was a really hard thing to pull off, of just like, let's put you in a place and see what you can do. Like that promise is really hard to fulfill when you don't necessarily know the tenets of making a 3D video game yet. Like there's not years and years and years of lessons. It's like, well, Mario 64 came out, Gex is out. Like, what are we taking here? So I get that it's like harder when you can't lean on that sort of shit. And I think there's a lot of stuff that like would go on to be incredibly influential from this series, you know, like there's a lot of shit of the way sort of Spyro moves and the speed of it and like how he attacks and shit like that feels very commonplace in like, you know, Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank and all that sort of shit. Like there's similarities there that I think like there's some common DNA that if like totally makes sense in context. That's present here, which is, it's cool, right? Like, you know, 1998 was a long fucking time ago. It's impressive that they were able to do that then. Yeah. I think a lot of games in this era for me have not aged as well. The ones that are sort of held up as like, this was an incredible game. Like, I think this and Crash are both like, they were a little bit of a bummer to return to because I held such high regard of them back in the day. And it's not to say these are bad games or that I don't appreciate them and that they weren't doing cool things, but it is very odd to return to like this era of PlayStation specific design. Again, because like Star Fox 64 has aged pretty fucking well. Mario 64 has aged pretty fucking well. I like, even in the same realm, there's an argument to be made here, but I think Banjo-Kazooie has aged better. It's a similar sort of collect-a-thon game. But I think the game feel of that was very, very good. The world and all that sort of shit too. Yeah.
It was just more, they were more forward thinking. Crash and Spyro were more, like you said, they kind of had the DNA of the past a little bit more inside of them. So I think these other ones just hold up better because, you know, you can see the commonalities between games now and those ones. Whereas, you know, there's not many games that made nowadays like Spyro because there's some definite, like
some drawbacks
to making a game like that. And Crash, you know, they're unique and they're kind of a time capsule in that way, but they're not really a good jumping off point to develop something.
I think like it's certainly notable to notice that it's notable to notice. It's interesting to note that like Ratchet and Clank, the new one that came out this year, changed a fair bit about how that game plays and like a lot of the stuff that goes on in it, sort of the beats in the story, how often you're going to new places, how much like friction they'll put on new mechanics or anything like that. And how even still a lot of that game is taken from mechanics that are very old into themselves, right? Like Ratchet and Clank is not a new series at this point. And so the game kind of has to reckon with these older ideas that it had and like which ones do you take and which ones do you leave. And so like it's very odd to play a game that I think if somebody was going to make a 3D platforming Spyro game now, there's a fair bit you would probably change, right? Like there's a lot that you would kind of switch up to make it, I think, more accessible. I think the friction of the controls would probably need to be updated a lot. But like, obviously, you know, like there's still so much fun in here Also, just like side note, why were games so obsessed with like going to different worlds through portals at the time? Like
Mario 64.
constantly going through portals to new worlds.
They thought this was the thing.
I think
like,
so.
Mario
Like
64
they were
did
like,
it worked great. Let's do it.
let's all do it. I feel like so many 3D platformers were like, yeah, we have to have worlds that we go to.
Yeah. No, I think that's why. Nintendo did it, baby.
They just crushed it right out the gate. They're like, well, that has to be part of it. As important to games that lives are, so are going through portals to a new place.
Mm-hmm.
I get the desire, right? Like being able to say like this world is totally different than the last one, but yet they're somehow connected. Great, good stuff. Yeah. So like that makes sense. But man, as the industry was so hopped up on fucking making portals.
They did. They really were. And you know, some of the portal worlds were bigger than the overworld.
So yeah, I think like it does say something that Em and I played a lot of this over the past few days. Mm-hmm. It's still got, you know, hooks to keep you playing and keep you interested and, you know, want to say like, well, what's the next world and what's in there and what surprises are around this corner. I think it does a lot of good stuff with exploration and sort of pulling you along in ways that are very modern, right? Like the like tenet of game design of let somebody's curiosity be the thing that they pull through them is like a very now thing that people are doing, right? Like Breath of the Wild does a lot of that shit. And so that part of it, I think, is like has aged very well. And so I think that's definitely pulling me along when I'm playing this sort of game. Mm-hmm. So I think that's very good. I love that. Do you have anything else to say about Spyro the Dragon?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Cool.
I get the hype. It's a good game.
I see it, but it doesn't age as well as some of the other classics, unfortunately.
Which is a bummer, because like I feel like this section is usually the opposite. It's usually games that are not classics that were like, there's some good shit going on here, but sort of the reverse has happened. That I was like, I thought every inch of this game was perfect, but it's like, well, there's still some good spots for sure, but it's not totally, you know, flawless.
Yeah, if it wasn't hyped up so much, you go back and be like, oh, it's surprising. It's
good.
You'd
be like, holy shit, this is a good game.
But with its rep, it doesn't quite live up to that.
Which is okay. Fuck, man. It's all
still
good.
Fun.
Still fucking good video game.
Yeah, still good. Just not amazing.
But hell yeah. Shouts out Spyro the Dragon.
Shouts out Spyro. Hey, we're on Twitter.
Hello.
At Podtimism.
Yes.
Tweet us.
Tweet us if you want to.
Tweet us if you like us, if you don't like us, if you're neutral about us, if you just want to share your thoughts, opinions about Spyro, maybe, because that's just what we talked about.
That is what we talked about.
But yeah, you know, tweet us if you want. Email us if you want at vgpodtimism@gmail.com.
Wait, I have a hot update, David.
We don't have the Gmail anymore. It's been canceled.
We still have VG Podtimism, but erase that from your mind. Erase that it ever happened.
Okay.
Because we have secured the domain. No, the email.
Podtimism?
At Gmail. No. I fucked this up.
Podtimism@gmail.com.
Yes, podtimism@gmail.com is an email that we now have as well. So email that one. It's easier to remember.
All right, podtimism@gmail.com. The same as our Twitter handle.
Yeah, we're all aligning now. We have a brand strategy, goddammit.
We're here. After 70-something episodes, we're here.
This is 75. This will be the 75th.
Dude. God, just marching on to death. Anyways. We would also, if you want, we'd really appreciate it if you left us a review. It really helps us out. It's on Apple Podcasts. You can also subscribe or whatever, follow us, or I know any of your other podcast platforms. That's cool too. And most of all, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. We appreciate it quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Love having you here with us. Love just going hard in the paint on these fucking video games, talking about all the weird little games that we picked up. Talking about pocket mini golf.
Yeah.
Get David's Game of the Year 2021.
Yeah. Going hard in the paint on these games. It is Shaq versus Aaron Carter every week on Video Game Podtimism.
That's the tagline that we will be using in our description. It is Shaq v. Aaron Carter every week.
I mean, that's the hardest that any two people have ever gone to the paint.
It's true. It's never been topped.
It's never been topped. They actually got close to nuclear fusion when they were battling in the paint there.
When Aaron, in fact, did beat Shaq.
When he dunked on him like boom, like slam, like jam.
And that is how he beat
That's
Shaq.
how he beat Shaq.
That's going to be a fun edit, clipping out just the little bits where he says boom, pow, and slam.
I'm trying to keep you busy, baby. You're welcome.
Yeah, certainly the 2-hour episodes will do that.
Yeah. Jesus.
Yes, thank you for listening to our podcast.
Do you have any video game wisdom for the week, Chase?
I do. Start your podcast at 7 if you can.
Yeah.
Because that way, when you record a 2-hour episode, it'll only end at 9:30, and you'll still have a few minutes to go sit and decompress before you go to bed.
It's very... I definitely have to decompress after this.
I'm always so hot.
Hot, hyped up. Just talked about video games or hard in the paint for a good 2 hours here.
I wish I got like cardio from doing this. It feels like cardio sometimes.
I'm at a good 84 beats per minute right now because it's so hot in here, I think.
Oh, man.
My resting is about 59, 60.
Damn, boy, you in shape.
I got a good
60.
I got a good heart.
Dang, 60's
At
good.
least that's what my Fitbit says, at least. So
Yeah.
who knows how accurate that actually is, but
Does it judge butts? I suspect that I might have a nice butt.
it does judge butts if you let me see the butt.
Wait, you? Why is the Fitbit not involved here?
Because the Fitbit's attached to my body. I'll just put the Fitbit up to the screen and it'll judge your butt.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, let's see it. Okay, it's calculating. It says,
Sick cheeks.
"Damn boy, are those space pants? Because that ass is out of this world." So
Cool butt.
that's a high score.
Solid
It's a high
rating.
score from the Fitbit. It's kind of a corny, pretty used phrase at this point, but
Yeah.
hey, it's corporate. It's Fitbit. They went for something that's kind of, not super controversial or anything.
I like sick butt. I think that would have been pretty cool. Sick cheeks.
Sick cheeks, bro. Nice clappers.
Oh no. Loving those cheeks, my man.
Top dumpy.
Nope. That's it. That's it. I'm pulling the shutters down on video game optimism for the week. After top dumpy, I'm fucking out.
All right. See ya.